Scott Britt, the karate instructor for National Fitness Center in Oak Ridge. Welcome to this edition of Training at Home. Today we're going to be looking at punching power, how to develop effective punching power in your strikes. Now before we begin, I want to remind people to sign up for a Thursday afternoon training session with me if you haven't already, for a video chat to get some feedback on your katas, to take a look, see where you are and where you need to be for your next belt. So, let us begin. Lord, we thank you for today. We ask that you would protect us, keep us safe as we practice and train. God, we thank you for all that you've done for us. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. As a reminder, be sure to pair this video with the Chart 1 video, the Chart 2 video, the Core Katas video if you're into the katas, to get a complete class. So, let us begin. So to generate power, there's two different ways to generate power. One is momentum, and the other is trigonometry, or pushing off of the ground. So in the first case, momentum, let's say this is my opponent. I launch, and you can see my back heel turned and came up. With this method, I'm throwing my body weight into it, alright? Kind of like a wrecking ball. So the wrecking ball is slinging its weight to make the impact, alright? The second way is by pushing off of the ground. So for this one, my back foot is grounded, the heel is down, and I'm using it to get the full thrust and push out of my punch. So you can kind of think of this like leaning against a wall. If I try to push while I'm straight up, not much happens. I can't get much push. But if I put a foot back, then I can get a whole lot of push or thrust into my target. Alright? So, both ways are good. The first way would be more used in distance, alright? If your attacker or sparring partner is farther away, that would be a good distance strike. So, the other one, which is the one that's used more in isshin-ryu, is used more for close-in sparring, or close-in fighting. So for that, if my opponent is this far away from me, I won't be able to do the full launch to get my full power with that style of punch. So for this one, a close-in thrusting punch with the foot on the back, or the heel down on the back foot, would make a lot more sense. So, we've talked about that. I also want to lay a foundation with two formulas. Don't really have to get real deep into these, just kind of know they exist, but I'll tell you what they mean here in a second. The first formula is for force. Force is mass times acceleration. Alright? So mass is amount of material, like a wrecking ball has a lot of mass to it. And acceleration is change in speed over change in time. Alright? So if you floor a car and you rev the car, you're going to feel the acceleration. A sudden change of speed over a short amount of time. That's acceleration. Well, negative acceleration is when my fist is traveling fast and then it gets slowed to a stop because it's hit a target. So that target is going to feel that force because it gave my fist a negative acceleration. So, what does that mean for karate? Alright? For karate, if I want to increase the force, I can do two things. I can either increase the mass, or I can increase the acceleration. Now, first one, I can increase the mass. When I throw a punch, my hand and my arm actually don't really weigh that much. So if I just sling with my arm, that's not going to be a very hard hit. So I want all of my body to follow behind it, alright? To get the full force that I can get out. So I want to lean in, step forward into it, And there's a few things here with twist, push off the back foot that are incorporated into that. But the main point is, I don't want to just punch with my hand. I want to punch with my entire body to get all of my mass transferred into my target. The second thing is acceleration. So I can increase how fast I throw that punch. That will affect it. Also, remember, acceleration is changing speed over changing time. So if I change my speed, increase my speed, I'll increase my power. But if I also decrease the time that he has to absorb that punch, I'll increase my power. So think of it like this. When you drive a car, and say the car slams into a brick wall, and you slam forward, you're going to experience a lot of force. Alright? Maybe you have 1/10 of a second, just throwing numbers out, to absorb all that force. That's going to hurt. That's where an airbag comes in. The airbag doesn't change the speed of the car. The airbag inflates to give you a little extra time to absorb all that acceleration. Alright? So if it can change the time it takes for you to absorb all that from 1/10 of a second all the way up to 1 second, then you're going to feel 1/10 of the force that you would have. And that's what keeps people safe. Now, reversing that, I want my opponent to feel as much force as possible. So, the 3 pumpkins. Really easy way to remember it. You have floating pumpkin, pumpkin on a string, and pumpkin on a rock. Floating pumpkin is, my head is not attached to anything, it's just floating around. If I take a hit, my head moves back to help absorb that punch. Alright? So, that would be the lowest level of force. Second level is pumpkin on a string. So if someone's grabbed my sleeve or my arm, alright, or my jacket, and is holding on to me when they punch, then my head will move a little bit before it locks out. So it has a little bit of time to absorb all that force. That's the second level of impact. Third level is pumpkin on a rock. So if my head is up against something to where it can't move, it has to take every bit of force of that strike. So it can't move back to absorb any of it. So that might be like a restrained, they're grabbed elbow strike, that would be pumpkin on a rock. Someone's on the ground striking, that would be pumpkin on a rock. So that would be the highest level of impact if the head can't move at all to get away from that strike. So, force equals mass times acceleration. So those two things mean you can either increase your mass to increase the force by getting every bit of your body behind it, and 2, you can increase your acceleration by having a very fast punch and a short time for the opponent to absorb that punch. There's a few ways that you can increase your force. Now, let's do a little bit of practice on that. So when I'm here, go ahead, get with me, hands up. We're going to punch. Let's work on speed right now. Let's see how fast we can throw a punch. And 5 times. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. Just for fun, we'll do it on the other side, other hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Good. Now I want to work on getting our entire body behind it. One of the ways that you can work on this is to have a sofa cushion, a large pillow. If you happen to have one of the big shields or targets that we use in karate, that would be great. But a sofa cushion will work just fine. If you can hold it up somewhere and work on getting your entire body behind it. Alright? So, that's one way to work on increasing your force. Now, here's a very interesting study. A study that was done in the Soviet Union back in the 80s. They studied boxers, professional mid-level, and amateur boxers to see where the power of their punch came from. So, what they found was for professional boxers, the highest level boxers, about 24% of the power of their punch. So if this is the power of their punch, only this much came from their hand and arm and the extension. Alright? The rest of their power was divided pretty equally between body twist and the push off the back foot. Alright? So that means if I stand here not moving the rest of my body and just put my arm out, I'm losing over 75% of the power of my punch by not incorporating my twist and the push off the back foot. So body dynamics make a huge amount of difference when it comes to power of your punch. So, the body twist and the push off the back foot. Now, the body twist, let's talk about that. One of the things that's great for is two things. One, getting your full weight behind it, right? Moving your body mass into it. The second is generating speed. Now, the second formula that I wanted to mention to you is kinetic energy, alright? Kinetic energy is 1/2 mass times velocity squared, alright? So, I won't get into all the fine bits of it, alright? But the main thing is, kinetic energy is how much energy you could possibly move into your target. Force is what the target actually feels. Kinetic energy is how much is there that you could give to your target. So, mass, again, is amount of stuff, right? How much is moving towards it. And velocity is squared. So velocity times velocity. Here's the main thing that I want you to remember from that. If I have 10 times the mass, alright? If I go from a wrecking ball this big to a wrecking ball this big, I'm going to increase my kinetic energy, my ability to deliver a punch, 10 times. So 10 times the mass, 10 times the kinetic energy. However, if I have 10 times my speed, velocity is squared. If I have 10 times my speed, I have 100 times my kinetic energy. Velocity is squared. So, if I increase my velocity, I'll have a lot more kinetic energy to work with than if I just increase my mass. So, what that means is, my hand comes out at a certain speed, alright? Let's just say 15 miles an hour, alright? It comes out 15 miles an hour. Well, when I twist my body, my shoulder moves forward at another 6 miles an hour, alright? I push with the back foot, which also sends my body forward another 3 or 4 miles an hour. Those all add up to where my end strike is as fast as it can be. Alright? So that adds a huge amount of kinetic energy to what you can deliver into your target. So, let's work on speed again. This time, really focus on twisting and pushing off with the back foot. Right hand, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Good. Same thing other side. Hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Excellent. So we've talked about the twist, how it lets us get our body weight into it and increases our speed. Now the arm. The arm does play a part. It does have 24-25% of the power. Here's the key. The distance you are from your target. I have to be the right distance from my target to give the maximum amount of power. If I'm here and I punch and I make contact with my target at the very end of my punch, very little is going to be transferred into that target. It might sting a lot, alright? It might sting the surface, but it's not going to have a whole lot of impact. It's not going to send them back across the room, alright? Likewise, if I'm too close and I try to throw my punch, I can't generate my full speed, my full power if I'm too close. That's why one of these strategies for stopping someone throwing a punch at you is to move in. Say you don't even feel like you want to block their punch. You can just move in to jam their punch so that you only feel a third of what you would have felt while you return a strike at the same time. And at the same time, you're moving forward to move your momentum forward. Alright? So, if I'm too far away, it'll just sting. If I'm too close, it's jammed and I can't get my full twist and momentum going. So, what you want is here to where I can make contact and finish following through. So as I've said before in class, my target is not someone's chest. My target is their back, and the chest is in the way. So when I finish my punch, I want to finish where their back was a second ago. So I've shoved them back with my punch. Alright? So, and the leverage of the arm. So if my arm is fully bent like this, it's going to be really hard to get the force to move it out. Alright? So they've jammed my punch. But if I'm already out to here when I make contact, it's going to be a lot easier to finish straightening out that arm. Alright? That last little bit of leverage is easier than if I'm at a full 90-degree angle. There we go. Excellent. Now, the last thing, want to harden on impact. Alright? So if I'm staying loose to make full contact, to get full speed, I need to be loose until I make contact, and then I tense all my muscles to deliver my full body weight into my target. So, I know I'm throwing out a lot of information here, but this is really cool stuff. I think it's really cool stuff. In your arm, you have two muscles. You have bicep, which pulls and moves your arm up, like when you lift something. And you have your tricep, which contracts and pulls your arm down, like if I wanted to lift something this way. Alright? So those muscles work opposite of each other. Alright? If I want to hold something really still, then I'm going to squeeze both my bicep and my tricep so they work against each other and hold my arm completely still. Alright? Here's the thing. I see a lot of people throwing punches when they're tight. Their bicep and their tricep are both tight, and they're trying to throw punches strong, but they're losing their speed. Because when both muscles are tight, when I'm throwing out, my bicep is acting to slow down my punch because it's trying to be tight. Alright? So I have to be loose to get my full speed. When I throw my punch, I want only my tricep activating to get my punch out there. I don't want my bicep trying to slow it down. So I have to be loose to throw my full speed in my punches. Alright? Then, as soon as I make contact, I'm generating all this speed. Alright? As soon as I make contact, then I tense up as I finish following through. So this is a lot of different things that we talked about. A lot of things that affect the power of your punch. So, what you can do. Get yourself a sofa cushion, get yourself something to strike, and work with me for a few minutes. If you need to pause the video, you can, but get something that you can push against, punch against, alright? It could be sofa cushion up against a wall, it could be a pillow up against a headboard, it could be anything that you can have handy, alright? So here, when I'm here, I'm going to extend, and I want you to twist, and push. Alright? So work on your distance. When I make contact with this, I want to still have some bend in my arm and finish out. Alright? Should be about at the back of the cushion. Alright? So striking, striking, striking. I'm not doing full speed right now. I'm practicing getting the twist, the push off the back foot, and making sure that my distance is correct. All those things together allow you to get the most mass transferred into your target. Now for acceleration, alright, you can work on your speed. It is out, 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 out. Alright, and you can combine those two. So what I'd like for you to do, once this video is finished, I want you to do 5 minutes of just working on slow body mechanics. The twist, the push, and making sure you're at the right distance. Switch hands every little bit, alright, so you're getting both sides. And then spend 5 minutes seeing if you can get gradually faster and add speed to it. I don't want you starting with speed right off, alright? Because then you start to lose a lot of the finer details. So start slow, and then with the 5 minutes of doing slow for form, and then do 5 minutes fast, or building up speed, to see if you can keep everything that you've been working on while you increase your speed, increase your velocity. Alright? So, I hope everyone has enjoyed this video. I know this one didn't have as much personal interaction as some of the videos. It was a lot more lecture. But please combine this with the 10 minutes total of practice after the video is finished. And I think you'll really be surprised at how much power you can add to your punch versus what you have at the moment. So, thank you very much, and as always, I cannot wait to see you all again in person. Thank you, and God bless.